Fighting a wildland fire is a complex undertaking that requires coordination among multiple resources, functions, individuals, and agencies. The challenges associated with wildland firefighting are substantial, including making sure incident responders get paid correctly and on time. One of the key tools for keeping everything straight is the Crew Time Report, or CTR. This training is for single resources and crew bosses to show how to properly complete the CTR, for supervisors who review and approve the CTR, and for time recorders who check the CTR for accuracy. Each category of personnel have specific responsibilities when it comes to the CTR. Understanding each other's roles will help ensure the seamless routing of the CTR for posting. Let's start with how a single resource needs to fill out the CTR. Block 1 is the name of the resource. This can be left blank for a single resource. Block 2 is the crew number. This is the resource order number located in Block 12 on the resource order received when you are assigned to the incident. The resource order also contains the information for Block 3, the office responsible for the fire. Block 4, the fire name. And Block 5, the fire number. The information on the resource order needs to be accurately transferred to the CTR. The next section is where the single resource needs to enter their name, classification, time worked, and remarks. Block 6 is a number or letter code that will correspond with remarks that will be entered in Block 11. Block 7 is the name of the employee, and Block 8 is the employee pay classification. For a federal employee, this block will be GS or WG. For an AD, remember to put the classification level, such as ADF. Blocks 9 and 10 are for entering the time work started and the time work stopped. Remember to enter the date at the top of blocks 9 and 10. Block 11 is where to enter remarks for anything that was noted in block 6. It's also where to make any notes about the time entries. In this case, it's the reason there wasn't a meal break. We'll go into more detail on how to enter remarks later in this video. For crew bosses, filling out the top of the CTR is similar to what we just saw for single resources. Block 1 is the name of the crew rather than a single resource. And it is important to point out, Block 2 is the resource order number. Remember, the resource order number is not the same as your crew or engine identifier back home. Block 6 is for noting anything out of the ordinary, and there should be a corresponding explanation in Block 11. Block 7 is where crew members are listed. A crew boss can list the names of everyone on the crew, or simply put the boss name plus the number of crew members. There is no right or wrong way to show a crew on a CTR, as long as a timekeeper can identify crew members. Each team or host unit may have a preferred method as to how to notate, so be sure to coordinate with finance early on. Block 8 is the employee pay classification. It is critical to note if someone is an AD and what the pay class is, such as ADC. Blocks 9 and 10 are where the time worked is entered for each crew member. If it's the same for the entire crew, the crew boss can enter it for one person. They can also use a down arrow indicating the same hours for everyone. Again, remember to enter the date. Block 11 is where the crew boss explains anything out of the ordinary. The explanations correlate with the notations in Block 6. For example, if the crew boss puts the number 1 in Block 6, they will also put a number 1 in Block 11, followed by the explanation. Alternatively, the crew boss can enter a letter such as H for hazard pay. In Block 11, they will explain the reason for the hazard pay, such as firefighting on an uncontrolled fire line. Common notations for remarks include H for hazard pay, T for travel, and E for an environmental differential. Block 11 is also where the crew boss records anything out of the ordinary from Blocks 9 and 10 showing time on and time off. An injury or compensable meal breaks are examples of what is noted in the remarks block. Remember to include what activity was done that warrants a pay provision. For example, write that the crew was firefighting on an uncontrolled fire line rather than just putting uncontrolled fire line. When working nights, time is recorded by the shift worked, so the CTR will show 2 dates for a shift. Time is recorded as the start time of the shift to 2400 in one column, then the start of the next calendar day until the end of the shift in the second column. Remember to show meal breaks or document compensable meal breaks. Once the crew boss completes the CTR, they need to get it signed by their incident supervisor, such as a division supervisor. If the incident supervisor is unavailable, the next level supervisor can sign it. Crew bosses do not sign their own CTR. One final note for single resources and crew bosses: make sure you fill out the CTR legibly. If the supervisor or timekeepers can't read your writing, it will delay the process. The bottom part of the CTR is for supervisors and timekeepers. Before signing the CTR, the supervisor needs to review it. Supervisors need to focus on hours claimed and ensure the documentation in Block 11 is appropriate and complete. Look at hours worked, meal breaks, notations or comments for hazard pay, travel, compensable meal breaks, injury or illness, crew substitution, or anything out of the ordinary that impacts pay. If something isn't correct or clear, the supervisor should work with the resource to correct the CTR before it is turned into finance. Here are some examples of incorrect CTRs. In this example, the resource failed to write a justification for not taking a meal break. Here's an example of inadequate justifications for hazard pay and compensable meals. The crew boss needed to expand on the explanations in Block 11. Remember, the justification needs to show what activity was performed that warrants a pay provision and why the crew didn't take a meal break. In this case, the supervisor would send the CTR back to the crew boss for clarification. When the supervisor is satisfied the information on the CTR is accurate and complete, they sign Block 12 and enter their position code in Block 13. Finally, the CTR is turned into finance and timekeepers check for completeness and accuracy. They ensure items like date, hours worked, excess hours, premium pay justifications, and signatures are shown and documented properly. If a timekeeper finds something missing or that is unclear, they will hold the CTR until the discrepancy has been resolved. The crew boss will have to return to finance and provide the explanation. Unresolved issues can significantly delay demobilization. That's why it's a good idea for single resources and crew bosses to periodically touch base with finance to make sure there are no issues. Once a timekeeper verifies that everything is correct, they post the CTR and sign Block 14 and enter the date in Block 15. While the CTR is a basic form, correct and timely completion of the CTR is key to finance supporting incident resources and the development of incident costs.